So, wanted to ask you if you have a personal board of directors and how do you define it?
Obviously, I've heard the term personal board of directors, and I've always approached it not like necessarily thinking of it as like my personal board of directors. I've always referred to folks as like my advisors. I know some people say mentors. I always, for myself, he's one of my advisors or she's one of my advisors. And some of them have certainly come to me over the years as like a mentor, but I think in part, maybe it's my public policy background, having been a policy advisor myself to many elected officials. I approach it similarly in that way, where these are folks who I trust. I see them as those who have a breadth and wealth of perspective, insights, experiences, right? Human social capital, whom I go to for advice, right? And I look at it as advisors because it's like what they impart on me ultimately is about me making the discernment. And I think I've especially learned that in this last year and a half as I've been on my own career sabbatical for the first time ever in my life, my career, being a recovering healthcare executive, you know, and then just be like, holy smokes, I broke out of the dark cave of health insurance I was in for over 10 years. And as I've been trying to be intentional, be focused, explore wide and deep, right? And other avenues that I quite frankly just didn't really have the time and space when I was on that corporate hamster wheel
Yeah.
to really go out and see what is the realm of possibilities. I also have learned that in this process, as much as I consult and talk to and seek sounding boards of my advisors, I've also have learned very much in this time of a sabbatical, trying to do this pivot, the importance of discernment, right? Because I think it's always important to also look at your advisors, your mentors, your personal board of advisors, however you want to define it. You also have to, like, I think, look at them in the context of where they are in their own lives,
Mhm.
right? And what they impart on you is going to be through that lens. And that's why I say discernment.
Yeah, like choosing the advice you take. In my book, I actually talk about like each of those advisors, they have a certain role
Mhm.
and I pull it based on what I need. I
Yes.
would never go if I'm not feeling strong enough for feedback and for hearing a potential no, I will never go to certain people that
Yeah.
I'm connected to. And I will actually seek the person that thinks that I'm a gift to this world and thinks that I'm amazing and will remind me that. So I bounce back in order to be able to listen to other things, like understanding not only who's in your network, but also what they do to you,
Mhm.
and being able to pull the right advice at the right time.
Yes.
Because I don't know if I personally can shut down a certain voice if I call it and it's not the right thing that I needed to hear versus just really focusing
Yeah.
on hearing them at the right time.
Yeah. And I think if anything, I've also learned there are certainly people who are my advisors and I've gone to them over the years. I still go to them, right? But I will also say in this journey of my own career pivot sabbatical, and it connects to why I joined Chief, right? Was I recognized that I had to expand my network of people from what I call my first ring. And generally, they're people who I've known over the years. I work with them, they work for me, I work with them in all the different
Yes.
capacity. And just on the natural, we're probably going to be in the same circle. And on the natural, they're going to like look at me in certain ways. And I needed to expand my network 2, 3 rings out and connect up with folks who might lead me to other possibilities that I just wouldn't necessarily find here. So I've also learned in this time that while I still have my strong go-to advisors, by joining other communities, Chief and others, it's connected me to folks who are in areas that I wouldn't naturally have come across.
Yeah.
And in some ways, whether they know it or not, have also been advisors for me,
Yes.
you know, at that
We're
time.
able to pick their brain.
Yeah, in that moment, or and the ability to like have a conversation and then, oh, I like to go back and see what that person's thoughts are on this, or help me connect to this. So I think the definition certainly can be fluid, is what I have really come to understand and learn and appreciate in a way that I never have. You
Yeah.
know?
And
Yeah.
I like that you mentioned that you specifically mentioned who is like your near close circle. You said
Yeah.
ex colleagues and ex managers, and then that there is a need for us in order to grow, in order to expand our thoughts or our path, um,
Yeah.
to actually look outside of the people that I know, um,
Yes.
and grow that with other communities that you can join.
Mm-hmm. Especially when, again, going back, at least for me, right? I have advisors who I worked for over the years, I've worked with, and uh, as I've been trying to do this sabbatical pivot, so I will be perfectly honest, not just them, but a lot of people, just like friends and colleagues, I've had a lot of things said to me. Things like, why would you do that? Why would you throw away all your years that you've accumulated in government relations or healthcare or whatever it is, right? I've had a lot of interesting things said to me, and you can't help, right? Like you shared earlier, like there are certain advisors you will go to where you need a certain kind of feedback, or you'll go to some because you need like someone to be that champion, say cheering you on. So I have in this process also had moments where I'm like, you hear some of the things they say to you and I'm like, oh my God, they're totally right. Why would I ever think right? Why would I ever think I can make this change? No, go back to what you've done, because that's what you know how to do. And so this is why I go back to discernment. And this is also why I go back to recognizing that I think generally our advisors, they want the best for us, they mean the best for us. But I think it's also that discernment of understanding like they're probably in a different place and time in their lives than from where I am. And as much as they have a lot of wisdom and social capital to offer, it's also for me learning what I share, how much I share, and with whom.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I love that because one of the things I wanted to ask you is like, how do you prepare yourself to talk to your advisors or personal board of directors? Is like, how do you say, okay, this is what we're going to talk about? Is it a free flow conversation and then whatever comes up? Or do you have a specific thought or a question of how do I do that? Or how do I move into that direction? Or do you come like prepared, or do you just let the conversation flow?
Yeah, it depends, right? There are some advisors who I think for me, it depends on knowing who they are and their style, right? There are some where it's totally free flowing, right? Like I'm just texting them, being like, hey, can we just catch up for 30 minutes? And it's just free flowing, right? It's just a catch up. Other times I will send an email and just be like, because I know they're important, they're like busy, and I'll just send an email, just teeing up like, could we connect like for 20, 30 minutes? I'd like to talk to you about this or that or whatever it is. And I think my approach definitely varies to knowing who that person is and how they like to communicate.
Yeah. What about people that you don't necessarily know?
Yeah, so those who I don't know very well, if you will, firstly, it's always great, right, when you have a soft intro, and then after a soft intro, just have a conversation with them. And usually my approach is always, because I genuinely get interested about people, right? I always love hearing people's stories because I always find that fascinating. I think it was like, it's probably like my own curiosity and maybe explains why I thought I was going to go into journalism, but instead I went into public policy. I'm just always curious. So I approach it in terms of it's a relationship building, and relationship building takes time, right? And I think the best way you try to forge a relationship is honestly just get to know the person. And how also I come to it, like, how can I also be a resource and a support, right? Because like I'm all about, is there an intro, is there a door, is there a phone call, is there an email that I can do on behalf of someone too? Because I fully understand like when people are in need of something, right? And how it is I can be supportive of that. Yeah.
And it is a two-way, and it allows you to stay in touch. It allows you to pay back. It allows you not to feel that you asked and you didn't bring anything back. There's so many reasons
Yeah.
to do that, and also allows you to come back to them again because you are not just, taking, you're also willing to give.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. How do you stay in touch?
It varies, right? It varies. Literally, there's some where like I'm on a text message. I'm just like, I just literally will just be like, hey, blah blah blah. Just thinking of you. Hope you're all well. And that's it, right? I'm not asking. It's not for one. I'm just literally, I thought of you and wanted to drop a quick line. Other times it's reaching out and saying, hey, let's grab a drink. Let's catch up over lunch. Other times it's just, can we just set up a chat? Just want to check in.
Yeah. And I have something similar. It's like one of the people who actually I made the biggest career leap was under his management. And up until today, we have this, we're not friends. We still have this kind of a manager
Yeah, right.
relationship because he was so senior to me.
Yeah.
But we do have, but if you look at our text message, it would look as if we're like old friends because he always remembers to wish me happy Mother's Day. And I always wish him happy St. Patrick's Day. It's funny that we not necessarily are friends, but we do find like a friendly way to keep in touch.
100%, right? Because, and I get it, because like one of my advisors, and you asked like how do I communicate? He was the former CEO of my last company. In fact, he was the reason why I arrived at that company, right? My last company. And he's a CEO, right? But I consider him as one of my advisors, but he's one of those where, yes, like I'm on text message with him, but I'm not like always on text message. But like when I want to talk to him or when I need his sounding board, I'll like literally just send him an email or sometimes a text and being like, hey, can I talk to you for 30 minutes? And here's why. So like I tee it up for him, but I understand what you're saying because we have communication via text or email where it seems like we're friends because like we're like cracking jokes and what have you, but he's definitely senior, right? Like meaning like he was the CEO of a publicly traded company, right? Like I like when I was brought in, I was a manager. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's like that familiarity still and knowing that I can still go to him even to this day.
Yeah, that's amazing. Last question is, how do you reach out to people you don't know or specific people you want to consult with and you don't know them? How do you reach out, or do you even?
Yeah, so it's funny. Like I have been exercising and building that muscle, to be perfectly honest, in this past like year and a half, 2 years. I've gotten better at it. The pre-pandemic Carol would have been like, no, I'm not connecting with that person on LinkedIn. I don't know that person. Why would I do that? I was totally like, to me, I was very rooted in when I say I know someone, like it really means I do know them. I think in the time of the pandemic and still coming out of it, among the many silver linings for me, not that I would have ever wished a global pandemic to the world, But there were a lot of silver linings for me. And one of those was getting over that psychology, right? Like that psychological barrier of, oh my God, like I can't connect with people if like I haven't met them or talked to them. I think the silver lining of the pandemic is knowing how to connect with people virtually and knowing how to connect with them even in these social circles, platforms like LinkedIn, or even community groups like Chief. And it's been really amazing how many more yeses I get when I like send a message saying, and finding like a connection point. A lot of it has also been Chief members, right? The connection point of, oh my God, I'm a fellow Chief, would love to connect with you, love to get better acquainted. And do I hit 10 out of 10? No, because not everyone's going to give you their time. But I would say on average, I get like a yes response, 8 out of 10. And so that's how I've been doing it. And I myself have had to learn to do that too. And I've come to learn it's not as awkward. And I think the way I try to do it when I'm doing a reach out is to try and see, is there a connection point? Like we have a shared mutual connection, or we're part of a same network or the same community, and kind of use that as, yeah, short of an intro, right, from someone.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And I reach out also, cold reach out to people. And if you will ask me to name the ones that didn't respond, I don't even remember. Like it's not a thing that I carry, like a disappointment or a heartbreak. I just move on.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people that I speak to today that are kind of ask me, so how do I network? How do I grow my list of advisors? How do I build this list of people that can support me? And what if they say no? And I'm like, so they'll say no. You probably won't
Yeah,
remember. It's not a big deal. It's not
exactly.
like a something that I carry with me, like as a rejection. I really don't remember.
Yes.
I look for the next person that can support and try to give back first and then continue on.
Yeah, 100%. Because I always say the world is already hard enough as it is, especially for women and women of color. Like, I do not need to make it harder, for others. That's like my attitude. I'm like, whatever it is I can do to try and be helpful, because I know what it's like on the receiving end, because I've been on the receiving end most of my life, right? I just had no control, right? I didn't control being born as a girl and growing up as a woman. And I didn't have control the fact that I'm Asian. It's how it is. And so I think it comes from a place of empathy for myself and how I see that, to try and figure out how can I be most helpful for others. And my own advisors having helped me, and they don't necessarily look like me or same lived experiences like me, but that willingness of giving of their time, giving of their wisdom, giving of their insights, their encouragement, the willingness to open doors.
Yeah.
And when you have received it, I think you're responsible to share that with others.
Yeah. To pay it forward.
Yeah. All the time, all day.